PA, JBL, and the center. There was just a center cluster for live performance. Like who thinks of this stuff? It was just wrong, you know. And from the position you had to mix from.
Dude, installers, man, they're just brutal.
That system didn't cover that area. Thank goodness I had my little Genelecs, and I could delay them and make them sound like what the center cluster sounded like over there, because it was not getting to where I was running the sound
it
from.
took me a long time to get used to doing that. I didn't like that at all at first, but I'm pretty used to it now. But
yeah, exactly. We have.
I mean,
you
got to sort of.
right?
Yeah, you got to EQ it a little bit, and you got to delay it so that it lines up really nicely, and then you got to sort of walk back and forth a few times so you can relate to it a little bit, you know. But I have to get my head around it.
That's the key. Yeah, but I carry a little London unit that has, you know, I can switch between PFL or output of the console, and it uses the same output of the console that's feeding the PA, and I have an EQ on those local speakers that's separate from the EQ for the PFL. Anyway, it's very helpful to, you know, get your bearings together, you know. And then I got a level control and an on-off switch and all that stuff to control it. And it's just that's you know, I bring that stuff just in case, and 90% of the time I'm using it because I have to.
Wow. Huh.
That's impressive.
But that sound system, that was a very impressive sound system at that venue, but just not quite implemented right. It was too bad. That's all.
You know, we just did the MMAs in the oh shit, what's it called?
Early Hilton, what?
No, in Las Vegas in the
Mandalay Bay, it sounds like.
All right, think about that for a second.
Yeah,
Bruce.
I'll think about it for a minute. It's right on the tip of my tongue. All right.
Hold it. Move it a little further. Move it a little further. Okay, there you go. You're coming. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our 251st meeting. I got to be quick because we got to get back to Bruce because this is exciting stuff. Remember, everything you hear today is an opinion. Okay, here we go. Bruce, to you.
Okay. You know, have you ever mixed anything in the joint?
You mean like what used to be the Hard
Rock?
Rock?
Like in prison?
Yes, it was the Hard Rock, yeah.
Well, I did Chris Isaac there and Stevie Nicks there many, many years ago.
Oh, because their new system is all D&B, and they have and they have a SL6 F6L.
Avid console.
S6L, that system! Oh my God, that system! It's like, you know, that place seats like 1,600 or something, and it sounded like a king size stereo system. It was
amazing.
Nicest.
Yeah, well, the KSL series or GSL SL series.
The big boxes left and right. They had like 10 boxes left and right, and then they had a couple of delays, and then they had a couple balconies.
You can't beat that D&B
it
SL
sounded
series.
So good. And after doing the last 4 years at the Desert Inn or whatever that was, where they had the M32s and nothing worked. Oh my God, that was terrible. But what a nice change that was.
Nice. What was the
Mixed Martial Arts Awards? I've been
doing an awards show at the joint, huh? How about that?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Chris is giving us a little demonstration.
We back up.
I thought he was doing a little bit taekwondo or something. You know.
Well, it looks like Chris is in a better mood. So hopefully they're like starting to build his house or something. We need to hear an update here.
It's just the clusterfuck continues. It was
you look a lot happier, except you need a mirror to shave.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's the WGA is the theater in Beverly Hills, not the DGA.
The WGA.
So what's the one on Wilshire Boulevard that, you know, oh my gosh.
So the Writers Guild is at 135 South Doheny, and the Directors Guild is at 7900 Sunset.
And that's the one the DGA is talking about. So what's the one? I think it's called the AMPAS, you know, as in, you know, the Academy Theater, in the one that I'm talking about. But anyway, hey, can I announce something, Jan?
Why can't you?
Okay, so I am super proud today, just because I just got this email, and the email says, yes, you are now a life member of the AES because you've been in the AES and been a paid member for so long. You're now a life member. For free, by the way.
And you don't have to pay anymore. Wow.
No more dues, just life member. Isn't that
And how
amazing?
long-
People
how
who are
long is
watching
this?
who don't know what the AES is,
'Cause-
it's the Audio Engineering Society.
So
That's
I
a
joined in
huge kudo to you,
77.
Kenny.
How old are
Well,
you,
you may be eligible. You should
Goes by
look on
age.
their website. So
Okay.
the point is, I got my membership in 1972 when I was 16 years old, and I've been paying every year ever since. And so then I was going to pay my dues, but then Gayer is actually how you say his name, Gayer, from Scoville's Back Lounge meeting, told me, you should check into life membership. You might be eligible. So I sent an email, and sure enough, I got the word today that I am a life member.
I
So
used
do
to
you
go
have
to
a
the
title
convention
now?
all
Do
the
we have
time.
to call you? Do we have to call you Sir Ken?
Nothing like that. No, it
Oh.
said, let me see, when we find the email. It just said, we thank you for the work you've done in the field of audio and look forward to many more years of collaboration.
Wow.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah,
You know,
I feel really, really special.
I stopped going to the AES conferences when all the PA people kind of went over to NAM and, in the AV, what's the
Yeah.
AV convention called?
LDI?
No, there's the
I
AV.
loved AES when it was
LDI.
at the Waldorf in New York.
Infocom.
That's when I
Infocom.
went to it.
Yeah.
Infocom. Greg. That's when I went to it. I was
Yep.
like a teenager running into the city every year for the Waldorf.
Yeah.
Yep.
In fact,
I recommended to them.
at that Waldorf, I saw Dan Dugan demonstrating an automatic mic mixer, and I was like, "There's no way! How
Yeah.
can you have an automatic mic mixer? That's not going to work." I was thinking it was for music, but obviously it's not. But anyway, the point is, I saw him demonstrating one of his early prototypes of the automatic mic mixer.
I remember first year I went, it was Phil Moog was there, and he showed off, even though it was an AES convention, he showed off the mini Moog.
I mean, Robert Moog. Yeah.
Robert Moog, yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
I'd say Phil Moog. Yeah,
It's not Moog,
It's
hey?
his brother.
It's not Moog?
Yeah.
It's Moog?
Yes.
I never knew that. I always
There
thought
you
it was
go.
Moog.
You learn something new every day, right, Greg?
So
Yeah.
is he
To have
the guy
him in
that
the
had
room right now.
Is he the guy that had the sex change or something?
Oh, that's
Wendy
Wendy
Carlos.
Carlos.
Wendy Carlos.
Wendy Carlos.
was a guy, was born
Yeah.
a male and then changed to being a female and would use that Moog a lot.
He
Yeah.
was a Moog player, right?
Right.
Oh,
He
yeah,
did all
very,
of
very.
the switched on Bach. All of
Right, switched on,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was trying to remember. Wow,
that
But
is some
in
good
those days,
trivia.
that was pretty revolutionary to have a sex change.
Oh,
yeah. I wonder if it changed the
Not
sound
here
of
in
his...
Thailand, I'll tell you that.
yeah.
It's nothing revolutionary about
Well,
that here.
you guys have lady boys, and those are like their own breed, man.
Oh man, and they're getting to be a little bit more anxious out there.
Oh, man, are they
the
really?
headlines they were attacking some tourists or something like that, because some people, they stand their ground. You can't fuck with these people.
Yeah, they grab
you know?
your crotch as you're walking by.
No, that's the Mexicans in Tijuana. When they try to
Oh,
steal your
right. I'm
wallet.
getting the two cities mixed up, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, hey, that's the only time I have ever been pickpocketed. It was in Tijuana. I'm walking down the street, and this woman, she's kind of cute, and she's walking down the street. And she's smiling. I'm smiling. I'm younger at these days, and all I know is as she gets close to me, she's like walking up. You know how you walk, and one person has to move to the right, one person has to move to the left. Well, I'm walking, and and she comes right up to me, and I figure, all right, she's going to move to the left or the right. I'm going to move to the left or the right. And then I start to move to the left. But by the time I started to move, she reaches down, grabs my junk, squeezes it. I bend over. And as you bend over, you can try this at home if you like. But as you bend over, your pockets open up. And she just stuck her hands in my pockets, grabbed everything out of my pockets, and ran away. And I'm just there holding my junk. Oh, and everybody
but
is
you were-
laughing.
but
Nobody's
you were
chasing her for
smiling.
my shit.
They're bringing
I
the
was not
thieves. They're
smiling.
bringing the rapists. They're breaking into our country.
I mean, hey, maybe we'll do a show one day of our Tijuana experiences, but
Oh, my
not
God.
today. Okay, that was it. That was my only experience. Sorry about that. All right, back to installation talk. Oh,
Well, so anyway, I have yet to see. I mean, I don't know who installs some of the showroom stuff around Las Vegas, an installer or a real sound company, but I've seen some atrocious, most of the systems that I've worked in around the country where I've had to go and make the system work in the venue that some local installer put in have just absolutely been disasters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and some
Well,
are
Mike
some are
Brown
really
does
great.
that
Some
a
are
lot.
really great. Yeah, some are
Mike
really
Brown
great.
does a lot of that. And you need to have a license. In other words, not a driver's license either. You
Well,
need
you
to
have
be
to be a
an
licensed
engineer.
contractor. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be a
Yeah.
licensed contractor. And they're
So,
very
hey,
strict.
speaking of which, I just found out that somebody that I met about 10 years ago is now working for Shure, has been working for Shure for 2 years now, and he's in like customer service, customer support. He used to work for Bose. He was with Bose for a long time. He was like the same kind of thing at Bose. He would support Bose professional products for any of the end users. And now he's at Shure and he supports the end users for Shure. He called me on the phone and I was like, fantastic, that's great. He told me about the Axient Digital in-ear systems and how much better they are than the previous systems. And he told me about these new, what are these new microphones called? Nexodyne series of mics. I don't know if you guys have had a chance
I'd like
to
to
use
know
those.
more about that. Ken, have you bought any of the new PSMs?
Oh yeah,
Axient
How are they
Digital?
working out? How are they doing it?
they're starting out on people. It's just now starting the spring tour. I got them out on a couple tours that started out. We're still getting organized, everything what we got to do with them, but they seem to be fine. They're
Is
a little
that their
bit,
version of the WMAS?
yeah.
It is
Yeah.
WMAS, yes.
You have the
Mentioned
4-channel now. You can open them. They'll be able to open them up in June. You can buy a code to take it to 8, 12, or 16.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
But
Yeah,
they're
the
quite
PSM
clear.
1000s were very popular, very, very popular. There's got to be zillions of them out there right now. And so, do you
Right.
think, Ken? Do you
Well,
think people
I'll
are
get
going to
this.
be
Here's an
upgrading?
interesting statistic. Let's see if I can remember the numbers. I don't remember all the numbers, but he said Claire Brothers wanted. They bought what, like, I forget the number. I think he was 20,000 units of the Axient
20,000?
Digitals, 20 something like that. And you know what? They have a monthly standing order for 250 more every month. 250
Oh
every
my
month.
God.
What kind of business are they doing
Are
that they
you
need 250 more every
They own
month?
they own everybody now.
Time out.
Claire's
Wow.
become the Borg.
Not Ken, not
Time
Ken.
out.
Yeah, not
Are
Ken.
you sure he wasn't talking
Yeah,
about
not Brian.
I've
We
been
got Brian Scott in
assimilated
the
and
room
it's
too, by
very
the way. We
nice.
got another sound company owner here.
Are we sure he wasn't talking about Sweetwater? Because Sweetwater has a standing quarterly order with Shure for like $10 million a quarter on anything that, any orders of what they always get first choice of anything. So that's why a lot of people lost a lot of sales to them over COVID because they were shipped first when there was shortage of product.
I'm sure he was talking about Claire, but he didn't mention Sweetwater at all. But that's interesting. Wow, how about that? But can you imagine the amount of business they're doing if they need 250 more units every month? And by the way, they had a whole company meeting about it. He said, and they have to make sure that they don't shaft any of their other customers, because if you got to provide 250 units every month, that could be your entire what you build every month. I don't know.
Right.
Well, the other point too is that they also bought a bunch of the Sennheiser systems. They had a big training up there a couple of weeks ago in Lidditz.
They had one on the 13th at Empire Pro in Los Angeles. I think I mentioned it in one of the shows, but anyway, yeah. Kenny, are you sure that it was Claire Brothers, not Claire Smith? I think Claire Smith is the buyer for Sweetwater. I don't know, maybe
Could be, but might not have even been Claire Brothers. It might have been just Claire Audio or something. But it was Claire something.
Well, I don't think that would happen. Anyway, hey Brian, what's going on down there in North Carolina?
Not much.
Well, thank you very much for
A
that.
lot of bad weather, though, right?
Well, a lot of bad weather. That's the extent of it, and we still got people sleeping in tents in freezing weather up here. So and then they just got flooded out 2 weekends ago. Everything that they were starting to get reestablished on, we had a storm come through and knock them out. But festivals and stuff start up in about another month, so things will be picking up. This is really the slow month.
Is it time for the Merle Fest yet?
I'm not associated with that one, so I don't know off the top of the head, Ken.
Cliff at SE Systems usually does that. It was, is it Merle Haggard? Merle, I can't remember. But it's every year, does bluegrass, the whole country and all that stuff.
Yeah. I've got a couple people trying to pick up a couple of stages up in Bristol. They have a big week-long 16-stage bluegrass festival up there. So trying to get associated with that one right now.
Right. So now, don't they have, what's the biggest festival there in North Carolina? Doesn't it begin with an S, like Spagnoli or something like that?
Oh, there's some pretty good sized festivals down in Myrtle Beach, and that's 4 hours away from me, so I don't deal with a lot with them. Charlotte only has one festival, and that's usually in the late summer, and it's only been going on 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
So
What's Charlotte's last name? Do you know?
it's Queen Charlotte.
Oh, Queen Charlotte. Oh, okay. Charlotte, North Carolina. You weren't talking about a woman. I got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple big shows around the 2 motorsport races, but they closed down a lot of Uptown for that. But that's SC Systems that does that.
Got it. Well,
See you,
swinging
Effie,
over
yes.
to our man in the street in Seattle, Mr. Hare. How you doing, Kurt?
Just working in the shop, trying to get ready for the crazy season.
Well, we were just talking about the Accent digital in the year. We know that according to a man on the street in Los Angeles, that they've ordered, 10,000 units? We just want to know if you've ordered more.
No,
Okay, there we go.
Have you,
Moving
have
on.
you, do you use those? Are you buying into those at all yet, Kurt?
not yet. We're still got PSM 1000s. We'll see how it goes this
PSM
summer.
1000s are great, but according to the guy that I was talking to, these new ones are pretty different, dare I say, sounding. Would you say they sound different, Ken?
Yeah, they are sound a little cleaner stuff there. The only issue that people are asking about is latency. And we've had a discussion at the AS event that I did a couple weeks ago. We did a discussion about latency through your mix path of your monitor world in front of house and figure out what you do and what is tolerable, determine what's tolerable for you and intolerable. So that's a thing too. That's the same question that's coming up on the Sennheiser's latency. There is some questions with the sound devices stuff with theirs on their online to go straight into HMA. Nobody's really documented yet what the actual latency, but people think it's a little less than this Shure and Sennheiser.
I still see tours where they'll split critical inputs and send them to an analog desk and then take an input from the digital monitor console for the things that person's not playing. So if it's a singer, guitar player, frontman, his guitar, his vocal will split, go to the analog and the digital, and then they'll take a submix from the digital back into the analog and send him all that stuff. So his own playing and vocal are not latent.
That's because of the console itself. But I guess what Ken's suggesting is that maybe the Accent digital system introduces a little bit of latency. How much latency is involved in the Accent digital, you think?
Well, there's there, but also with all the transmission, how you're doing, whether you're doing AES, where you're doing convert, how many times you're going from analog to digital, how much you're doing for plugins. Every plugin has accumulated.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, it all adds up.
And then you start.
yeah.
And
I
then
think it also matters is how many channels you're using. If you're only using so many, you can have them on a wider carrier, for lack of a better term, and it's supposed to be less latent.
Well,
Is that right? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
when you do the bigger ones, when you start combining them or multi, 16 or more, you start looking at latency in that too within the wireless. You also have latency on the wireless microphone.
That
Right.
sounds just like what happens with satellites, where you use something called slotted Aloha protocol to basically, it's a choo-choo train, and you load packets into the cars, and the choo-choo train never changes size. And the length of the choo-choo train is known as the window size. And then, but yeah, there's a lot of issues with transmission of data on a shared.
It's just like Dante. Dante's does the same thing. You start loading up Dante and your latency is going to go up.
Come on, Fred. You got to say choo-choo train.
Choo-choo train.
Train.
The choo-choo. It's the choo-choo.
You got more
train,
cars.
Charlie.
You got more latency, right, Fred?
So, talk about latency. We got the big now is everybody going to Milan, you know, all the manufacturers are starting pushing Milan. Is it the reason that they're pushing that? They're talking about micro latency, which is actually phase issues and stuff there. And the question is it do you have micro latency when you come straight out of the networking, or is it when you hit a switch and the switches don't treat the networking properly and it gives you micro latency?
Okay, so that
On the
depends.
protocol.
It depends on the switching method. So most switches use what's called cut through. So they basically examine the MAC address portion and then start forwarding immediately upon reading just that one section of the packet. But then there are a whole bunch of different switching methods, and then there's Cisco actually makes one, which is, it's pretty rarely used, but it's store and forward. So basically the whole packet comes in, they check to see that the packet is checksums are all good and the data is correct, and then it sends it out. And that obviously, if you use that as a switching method, that would not be good in audio networks.
Right. Audio, the majority of them are using tagging, though, Chris.
Oh yeah. And then obviously, yeah, there's VLAN tagging or anything like that.
Yeah. There's packet tagging even. Not even it's beyond.
Yeah. That's why you don't want to use trunks if you can avoid them. I would just have VLANs assigned to port numbers, and you don't need to actually. Well, it's going to get tagged anyway, but then. Then there's ISL, that's the Cisco protocol for tagging. And then they've got all these, then you start getting into all of the packet stuff.
Right.
Hey, I got a question for the group. I was talking to Barry's musical director the other day because he musical directs at a church also. And one of their congregation members offered to donate a bunch of money if they would get wireless microphones, because right now they don't have any wireless microphones. And he said, you guys need wireless microphones. You should get some Shure SLX. And oh, good. I'm glad you acted that way. So I said to his name is
just
Ron,
run down to Guitar Center.
Exactly. So I said, Ron, I think you should. The lowest you should go is ULXD, not
ULXD,
SLX.
yeah.
Don't go any lower than ULXD. So would you guys agree, or have you had great experiences with SLX, that it's okay to use?
No, you're right on the money.
Yeah.
So ULX
and not only
is the
that,
bottom.
they could save money. Believe it or not, they could save money by going ULX because people are dumping their ULXs.
Well, that's
So
what I said. I
they
said rather than go SLX, go used ULX is what I said. And he went, okay. And I found a couple things on Reverb right away. They're like basically half price from the new compared to the new price. So he said, oh, well, let's definitely do that. Yeah.
Well,
I'm glad you guys agree. Thanks.
Well,
Yeah,
the problem is the reason people are dumping them is because the UHF spectrum is shrinking, and all the old stuff, only had blocks, which is where the Axiom Digital thing is. Everybody wants to buy it because
way wider,
wide band,
huge swaths of spectrum that they have choices from. Whereas wireless technology didn't have that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ken, make sure you tell him to make sure the frequencies of the units, match up with the area that he's in.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna. Yeah,
and that they haven't outlawed any of the groups that he would need,
Right.
Well,
So
it's that-
ULXDs come in G50 and H50 or something. I forget
I
what
don't
else.
remember. Yeah.
Okay.
It goes
Yeah.
by frame, but they have sections you can be in, and you got to watch where you're doing there, how it is. Because the other thing, if he's going to be in a church, what is available in that frequency range where he's going to be. So you got to decide that way. The other
Shore has a page on that on their website that he can
Yeah,
just
that's a
go
good
up
place
to
to
and
start.
figure out
Yeah.
Ken, do you have,
what frequencies are available and what's the best frequency range to go to in that marketplace.
does
Got
your
it.
artist have a Shure endorsement?
No.
Maybe you need to meet the Shure artist relations rep,
Yeah. What's their name again? Ryan? Is that Ryan Smith still?
Ryan Smith here in Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah. I've known Ryan for a long time, but yeah, no, we don't exactly have an endorsement. We just use their stuff.
Weren't you just talking to somebody?
I was talking to. He's not an artist.
I try not
endorser
to pay
kinda guy.
attention, but I
Right.
remember distinctly you were talking about that.
Yeah, I just somebody that used to work at Bose now works at Shure, and they were really cool. He said he's going to be in Vegas in a couple weeks when I'm going to be there, so we're probably going to get together. He's going to show me that new Nexodyne mics and maybe even the Axient Digital IEMs.
I just heard those a couple days ago.
Which ones? The mics?
But yeah, the new Nexodynes and
Yeah. What do you think?
and the baby 421s.
Oh yeah, I'm curious to hear about the
friend
421s
of
as
mine
well.
writes for Pro Sound News or Web or I don't know, one of those. And we were at the casino and he was mixing in the showroom there, not on my rig, but in the installed rig. And so he brought them with him because he got them to review and couldn't tell on the guitar mic because the guy was playing through a JC 120 and it was awful. So there's no way to know whether that was good or not. But the kick and the snare mics sounded great with like almost no EQ. He had a CL5 so I could see the frequency content, displayed. Didn't really need to EQ him much. I mean, it was a well-tuned kit. It was a clear.
So do they? You saying they have a new Nexodyne kick mic?
And a snare and vocal mics.
Oh, I
And it's
only
weird
thought it was
because it
vocal
kind of
mics.
And
kinda
guitar
look-
mic. And guitar
and
mic.
guitar mic.
Oh,
But
no
the
kidding.
drum mics and the instrument mics look sort of like one end of an old school telephone. It's got
Oh,
like
no kidding. Oh, okay.
Really?
Got it.
Really?
it kind of like bends
side
over.
address kind of thing.
Kinda, but it has a little angle to it. And the clips, I went up there on stage with him and we were playing around with it, and you could clip on the snare mic and it'll stay. And then we didn't use the tom mics because we wanted to hear the mini 421s, and they sounded
Yeah.
great.
I bet
The
they sound as good as
421s and
full
they were-
size 421s, right?
I have to have
quite.
one next to each other. I mean, I'm going to buy some for the summer, and then I'm going to A/B them, like literally put them both on a drum and hear them at the same time. I think what's different is the bass port is changed a little, and the proximity switch is gone. But
we
so-
never wanted that proximity switch anyway. That was just for some people that wanted it.
Yeah, well, it's been around since
The 421 is a Sennheiser, right?
yeah.
Right.
Correct. Yeah,
So-
and then
Yeah,
they've got
because
the
I don't hear
Mini,
much.
which-
We don't hear much talk about Sennheiser these days.
Yeah, but the new Mini is supposed to have the same electronics. That's what they say.
Same diaphragm.
The smaller footprint, and
Yeah.
It probably doesn't have a funky clip that you can't replace for less than
No.
$30.
No, it doesn't.
apparently the clips are supposed to be pretty good on
Yeah.
the Minis.
Exactly. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was, and it wasn't a struggle to get it in there on the toms and clear the cymbals anymore. If you had a right angle XLR and the mini mic, you're set.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
But we were
And-
able to get it
and-
underneath the ride cymbal onto the floor tom and not interfere with guys' two crashes.
What I'd be curious of, Kurt, is you must have some of those. Now I can't remember the model number of it. Shit, I'm so bad. The tom mics that Sennheiser has these days. Before the Mini 421.
Those
There's
little
two of them.
plastic things,
There's
Yeah,
two
yeah,
of
what are
them.
they called?
casino mics.
Oh no, they're great. They're so easy to put on and off, and
Yeah, but they
sound
don't sound
fine.
anywhere near as good as 421.
421.
or-
But here's the big drawback of
Robotics,
421 in my book. The big drawback was always the off-axis sound of them. I mean, they make the cymbals sound horrible. That's
Just
what I
remember, everything
always-
here today is an
I
opinion.
know.
So
Yeah,
there you go.
my experience was that they have a very wide pickup pattern, and so you hear the tom. Tom sounds great, but then you also hear when you want to hear.
Well,
know?
it might be also that because of the positioning difficulty, they weren't always in the best spot.
I'm sorry,
Could be,
Kenny.
could be, yeah.
How does it sound again? Could you do that one more time for us?
It made the cymbal sound like instead.
Oh, so like a cat.
Woo 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 woo. I'm sorry.
Like kind of like a choo-choo train.
The choo-choo train.
And has anybody played around with the new Earthworks? Earthworks has a new mic that's been re-engineered.
Most people just use those for references. I've never heard somebody.
A lot of their drum mics. They have a catalog, a series of drum mics that are supposed to be really great, and also lectern mics. Don't they make a lectern mic that's really great?
They had the original one that has kind of a longer gooseneck, and then they have a V2 version now, which has that's a smaller capsule, smaller gooseneck. Just overall, the footprint is smaller and better phantom power. Apparently, they were having some issues with the with if you ever unplug one accidentally, the electronics were pretty sensitive in the old one, and the new ones are supposed to be better, and they're not as hot on gain. So the older Earthworks, I mean, in some cases you don't even need any gain, right? And it would even redline on a snare mic, for instance. And then on the new ones, what they're saying is that they took about 3 or 4 dB off, and that way you can get a much more you can get a better gain management.
They sound great, though. I've heard several times a guy that comes through on tours. Well, our rig seems to hit us every summer, and his whole stage is Earthworks, drum mics.
Oh wow,
sounds great.
Yeah,
I was
it just seems that Shure
is
is the big dog in the arena right now, though. Wouldn't you guys say that?
I think they're the Yamaha of microphones, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
in other words, they may not be the best.
A long time.
They may not be the best. They may not be the best sounding. But they're repeatable. They're consistent from mic to mic, and they've got a broad array of products.
You know what's great about them? If you're a framer and you're in a band, you can hammer nails with the 57 during the day, and you can put it on your tom-tom at night.
There you go.
57?
Yeah, 57. As long as the ring is screwed on tight so it doesn't rattle when you whack it with your stick.
Oh, wow. Coming down to the end of my time here, but yeah, but that's an interesting one, Bruce.
RE20 works better for framing.
Yes.
Does it really?
Absolutely.
Well, the RE20 is the same as the 635. We use 635s all the time.
635s are still in use, really?
Yeah,
wow, that's great.
Because that was the standard for decades. But then it changed to RE50s, and then I don't know what.
Well, the RE50 is a 635 with like a costume on.
Is it? Is that right?
Exactly the same inside. It's got a windscreen over the top of it.
Those are the Electro Voice. Those are the EVs.
Yeah,
you're talking about.
Yeah, for ENG work, those are very popular. But so I noticed that the TV show The Voice, here in the U.S. anyway, they were Sennheiser wirelesses forever, and now they're Shure wirelesses. So somebody somewhere wanted that change. That's a big deal.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm curious to know one thing. We have somebody, I don't know if you could talk about it because, of the NDAs, but at NASA, when he's microphoning these rocket ships that are going up and down, what microphone do you use? Can you talk about that?
Ask Gregory. There's the man.
We blew up a bunch of them.
I had over 400, and so I had a huge budget. So I just said, okay, I want 20 RE20s. I want 20 U87s. I mean, I just want
Jesus. Crazy. Now we know where our taxes are going. Wait, let me call Elon and tell him what you said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, he's listening to everything. He's monitoring everything right now. He's grokking it all.
But is he watching the Eagles? Have you guys been watching the Eagles?
Man, I forgot. I've been watching the Eagles.
One
Yeah.
died, eh? One died.
I think the
Yes,
third one
one
was
did.
died,
One
right?
didn't make it through the storm, as they say. There was a
What, the
pretty
little
bad,
one?
pretty
One
bad
of the
storm.
little ones, not the big ones, right? The little ones, the baby, the
We'll never
chicklets.
know which one it was, but yeah, obviously it was one of the babies, not the adult.
I tell you, one of the things that when I watch those Eagles, and we're talking about not the band, but we're talking about the birds, that's up
And
in
not
Big
the football
Bear.
team either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the
it's
birds with Jeff
fascinating,
Beck?
fascinating.
You see the volcano on Hawaii is erupting again today?
Yeah. Yeah. I
What
saw that.
island?
But
I'm
it's
just
the same
watching
way
the birds,
Kilauea.
watching the Eagles eat.
So,
Can I ask
What
Kurt a
island did
question?
the what island, Fred?
oh,
I don't
that's the
know, because
main
it came
island,
up on
isn't it?
my
That's in
feed.
Hawaii. Yeah, that's a big island.
I think it's on the Big Island.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Denny?
I want to, didn't want to interrupt on the Hawaiian volcano there, but Kurt, did you make it down to Mayor Sound?
I've been to Buyer Sound a lot.
No, you said you were going to go down there to hear a new product.
Oh, I'm going down. I fly down Saturday.
Which product?
Yeah, actually, I saw an ad. Well, actually, there's a new product advertised. Well, not advertised, but on there's a webpage now for something called Hysteria, which is for theaters.
Yeah, there's a whole new
Yeah.
cinema series.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Maxon said, "Hey, let's go to the factory. There's some stuff you should hear." So I don't know.
I heard that when I was at the training. So they completely redid all of the sound at the Meyer Theater, and
Here's
they've got
theater.
all the latest and greatest stuff is now in the theaters. So we heard X80s. They've got 2100s. They've got the subwoofer. I can't remember the name of that one that does very, very low frequency.
VLF.
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 The VLF, and then they had then they've got these. You have to ask them to raise the screen in the theater because behind the screen are these gigantic the new theater series of speakers they have there. It's absolutely mind-blowing. It's really good.
Well, speaking of cool speakers and Meyer speakers, Radio City in New York City, they do their Christmas show, and they do other shows throughout the year. For the Christmas show, they use the Meyer system that's hidden behind the proscenium scrims. But for the other shows, they have the Vertex system. I heard a rumor that they're replacing one or maybe both of those systems with a holoplot system. Have you guys heard anything about that?
Something was said on the Scoville's.
That was me.
said
I was
yeah.
asking on there also.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how we start a rumor, just like that.
Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go.
Yeah. I'm curious to find out what it's all about. I'll be at Radio City in about 3 weeks, and I'll ask them if they can tell me anything.
Well, very good. And
Aren't-
Manilow's playing there, or are you just going to see something?
Yeah, we're playing there.
Aren't you carrying
Right.
full production, Ken?
Yeah, but we use their stacks and racks in there.
It's paid for in a truck. You might as well put it up.
But it's not. We get it as we need it.
But you just travel with your console.
And by the way, if we were to tell them that we wanted to put our PA up and they need to take theirs down, it's like some ridiculous fee, like $50,000 or something.
Oh yeah, you got the union cost of bringing it up and down, and then they got to space map the room.
Or whatever, they got to redo their hangs to make sure it's exactly the same as it was. But they only take it down for their Christmas show. They don't take it down for anybody else.
Ken, I wanted to tell you before you left, your name came up a lot, actually, last Thursday, because I went to see David Dansky and Hotel California.
Oh yeah.
It's about 3 hours away from me. So
Wow.
I spent the day up there. They did a matinee show, and I saw all of Jan and David's good work and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Great band, and yeah, your name came up, and
Well,
Jan's name came up.
I was the connection to David to get that gig, and so David's every time I talk to him, he's like, "Oh, I really appreciate you getting me that gig." It's like
Yeah.
I'm like I just gave him your name, David. You know,
Yeah.
if you hadn't done a good job, you wouldn't have that gig.
Well,
Yeah.
what was really interesting is David and I knew of each other all these years, and we finally connected through. It took us an hour and a half to figure it all out, but Gray Ingram was our connection, and he was going to be working for the Doobie Brothers, and I was brought in as a systems guy. It was great. It really was.
How about that?
So we spent an hour and a half.
We're probably connected also because I had many phone calls with Gray Ingram back in those days because I wanted to be the new kid running, mixing the drums.
Yep.
Maybe you both worked for Kevin Bacon at one point.
Could be.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
Anyway,
5
on that
years of
note,
separation. You
this
guys
is-
are allowed only 3.
He
This
only
is
worked
the,
on outdoor gigs, so
Well, so this is the lifetime member of the AES saying "Hasta mañana." I'll see you guys
All right,
later.
buddy.
Hey,
Thanks
Ken,
for coming.
Enjoy
Thanks for-
your electrons, Ken.
Yep.
There you go. Well, we're hearing from Australia, way down under. How you doing there, Wayne?
Well, I'm pretty good. I was running late today because I had to go and see the tax man to put my tax in so the government doesn't come after me.
Very, very good. Do you have to pay taxes down there? They don't just take it out in the VAT?
No, it's a bit, I don't know how it works in the US of A, but we have to, they take tax out, but at the end of every financial year, you go and you get you put in your income and you put in your costs and they work it all out. And sometimes you've got to pay more, sometimes you get a rebate.
So
Same
when
here.
is the
Same here.
financial year in
Yeah, it's pretty
Australia?
much same here.
When is the financial year in Australia?
It ends on 30th of June. And then it starts again on the 1st of July.
June. Because I was always wondering why there's so many manufacturers had like March 31st year in and started April 1st. And then a lot of them were English and Japan and all that stuff there. And I was told that like in the 16th century, whatever the king was at that time, he dictated that the year would start April 1st and that the tax year and that everybody's taxes were due, that their year end was finished on the 31st of March.
I wonder if that's how the whole fantasy and whatever I'm calling it, April Fool's Day, maybe that's how it started.
Maybe.
Don't know.
Do your research.
Do your own research because this is an opinion for sure. But one
But a
thing
lot
that's
of
not an opinion, the Fed met today and they kept the rate the same, which is really good. And the market reacted, and hey.
Do you have
Okay.
a flat rate? It's a flat rate right across. Or do you have different scales when you earn
Different
more?
scales.
Different scales.
So you have what's called the federal funds rate, and that is dictated by the Federal Open Markets Committee, or the FOMC. So the FOMC met today, and they decide the rate that people with commercial banking licenses can borrow money at what they call the discount window at the Fed. So it's like the lowest of the lowest rates available to anybody, and then everything else gets added on above that.
The interbank rate then comes in and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But
then
by
you
the
have
way,
then you
speaking
have
of
the
money,
borrowing rate for the prime, which is typically, a couple of 100 basis points more than the discount window, and
well, I just hope it raises the value of the dollar so that when I exchange money, I'll be better off. Anyway, one thing that you guys don't know, maybe you do know, I don't know, but the penny is going away. The penny, it costs now 3 cents to make a penny. It costs the government 3 cents to make a penny. And the nickel, believe it or not, costs 13.5 cents to make a nickel. A nickel is 5 cents, in case for those people that don't know from what a nickel is, but that's 5 cents, and it costs 13.5 cents to make 5 cents. Makes no sense.
yeah, I literally,
Makes no
I'll
sense.
wait until the value goes up. I probably have a ton of pennies in between, 50 Ziploc bags in different places. No one, once you get them, you take them out of your pocket and you throw them in the drawer. Everybody does this. And I forget if there was an estimate actually of how many pennies are in circulation. And it's absolutely mind-blowing because no one uses them.
Well, maybe they
Well,
were
yeah,
to get rid of the 99 at the
Well,
end
that
of all of your price
rather than
tags.
going to 2 decimal places, I believe they're only going to go to 1 decimal place at some point in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, the other day I went to get some gas and I said I want 9/10. That's it, 9/10. Don't give me a full pennyworth, and I want some change. They refused.
Yeah, well, the minimum amount is like $5 at a gas station, which is like not even a gallon in some places, right?
Yeah, but they don't go to the full dollar. You understand
Oh,
what I'm saying?
well,
In other words,
that's
9/10 of a
yeah.
cent.
Everything
I
is,
want my change.
yeah, can't have it.
Yeah, but
That's
when you
it.
start talking sales tax and stuff there, that's usually when you end up at the cents, a percentage of cents.
Well,
So
that was one of the greatest bank frauds ever perpetrated. Was the guy at a major bank who wrote the rounding algorithm for compounded interest. So they would end up with lots of decimal places to the right of 100ths. So, 1,000s,
Right.
10,000s, and so forth. And instead of rounding up and just eliminating those, he was collecting those 1,000ths and more cents and depositing them into an account. And it was completely untraceable because all of the rounding worked, but nonetheless, he was keeping these fractional amount of cents in an account. And when you're compounding interest on several million accounts every single day, this guy was making a shit ton of money. The only way they caught him was because he was actually sitting at a computer that he shouldn't have been at.
Well, it's
did you
interesting
know
you should say that.
There is a bit of trivia to that. Richard Pryor in the movie Superman 2 actually characterized that particular person who got caught. And if you watch the movie Superman 2 with the late Gene Hackman and Richard Pryor in it, he is caught, and the late Christopher Reeve, he's actually caught as a millionaire, and they're trying to figure out who did it. Here comes Richard Pryor in a brand new Ferrari Dino,
I got to go watch that again. I didn't even know Richard Pryor was in that movie.
Yes, Superman 2, filmed at Shepperton Studios, because I was rehearsing with in one of the other studios on the lot, so I got to see all the sets and everything. The whole crew did, so it was quite
Very, very interesting. Well, going back to money, speaking of money, and they made a lot of money on that movie. I'll tell you that right now. I don't know exactly how much, but it's my opinion that they made a lot of money. And in regards to these little fractions of cents, you know how corporations make a lot of money? By selling gift cards. And most people don't use all the money on their gift cards, and they're making a fortune on that money that just sits there that never gets used from gift cards.
Yep.
Did you know?
So,
The
Jan,
other big one where they're making money is on the commission fees for clearing credit cards. I mean, that's just a gravy train, man. Every time you use your credit card, somebody up that food chain is just ticking, making that fractional percentage off of every transaction, and it's
the
amazing.
buyer pays that. I mean, the merchant pays that. It's merchant fees.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
So do you know who the second largest bank in the United States is?
Well, that would probably be J.P. Morgan, I would guess, because Bank of America is number one, right?
Nope. Starbucks. Starbucks holds more banking money than the second most, and it's just strictly off their gift cards and their prepaid services.
What do they call that? Secondary finance or something. They have a name for that. Yeah.
Shadow banking. You have to do it in the shadows. I don't know. I have no idea.
I use Starbucks gift cards to give the stewardesses or the air crew members on when I fly. That's something.
You're a very generous man. I did that too. I bought like tons of when I was doing business, on a regular basis. I would buy tons of these $5 Starbucks gift cards and give them to people. And I wonder how much of that money Starbucks is still holding that people didn't
Yeah,
use
I
that
read
gift
that
card.
I read that last week and it just blew me away.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's a bit of a little news that you might know. Robinhood. You know what Robinhood is? That the financial banking, they just opened up their doors into crypto. And now they're allowing you to use your crypto to send money and receive money from others in cryptocurrency. So it's kind of interesting what's happening with the crypto market. I'm not an expert by for sure. Most people think it's a Ponzi scheme, and then and then there's the other people that think gold is the way to go these days. That's all I'm going to say about that. Anybody have an opinion on that?
Well, I can tell you one thing. To mine the very last Bitcoins will require the energy of the earth using regular processors that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
there,
used to
Yeah.
be, I was Bitcoin mining when you cracked a block, you got 120 coins.
oh yeah, no, I
Well,
mean,
120 coins right now, you'd be a
oh yeah,
billionaire.
Yeah.
I sold hardware to guys that were Bitcoin mining, and I just laughed. And I could have made a killing. I'd be a billionaire if I had just done it.
Hey, did you hear about the guy that has his bitcoins in a hard drive and by accident he threw them away,
Yep.
and now he was willing to pay whatever it took to get to the dump so that he could look for that, and now he's made a cash offer to buy the dump.
Yeah,
They
he had
won't sell it.
several $100 million. That happened. There was another guy that had a Bitcoin wallet that couldn't remember the password, and he had n number of tries, and he was down to his last try.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing that's interesting with Bitcoin, it somewhat proves the thesis that these super quantum computers don't work, because quantum computing is perfect to mine Bitcoins. And if they really did have these fabulously powerful, accurate quantum computers, they could mine all of the remaining Bitcoins in a day. And I think you'd want to do that if you had invested all of that money into a quantum computer. The first thing you'd want to do would be to mine all remaining Bitcoins. But if somebody were to do that, you can imagine what the value of the Bitcoin would go.
Right. Yeah, but there's a finite. They say there's a finite
That's right.
number
Yeah, it's a
of
Poisson.
Bitcoin.
It's an advanced, algorithm that Satoshi used to write this all up. But yeah, a quantum computer can find all remaining Bitcoin hashes very, very rapidly,
But it hasn't done it yet.
which proves the thesis that working quantum computers, or either that or they're just really altruistic and they just don't want to go mine and make themselves billionaires in an afternoon.
Yeah, but I thought the blockchain makes that impossible. I
No,
thought that's the whole idea.
no, the blockchain just merely ensures that there's no corruption of the hashes and the transactions. It's a distributed database essentially. And
Right. And now that's spreading into other areas.
That's utterly separate from the actual mining process. The mining is the discovery of a very long hash, and when you correctly calculate the hash, you have a Bitcoin, and it uses a lot of energy.
You have
to
a
find
block.
passes.
It's called a block, and you're rewarded a Bitcoin for a certain number of Bitcoins, depending on the scale. It's an ever decreasing scale, and it's an ever increasing difficulty in order to solve that equation.
Exactly. So it gets progressively more difficult, which was my first statement. That is, like, the very last Bitcoins, in theory, would use all of the world's energy combined to mine them. So there's, as soon as somebody's got a really hot, actual working quantum computer, we'll know because they're going to be all of a sudden able to mine Bitcoins with speed that simply can't be done with standard GPUs today.
How much
Chris.
energy would that take?
On a quantum computer, very little.
Right.
I think they're a fairly good suck on the sector, but I mean nothing compared to running 500,000 GPUs in tandem. I mean,
So how
So
much
let me
latency is
ask you this.
involved with Bitcoin mining then?
sorry.
How much latency is involved with the Bitcoin mining?
Well, between the time that you start and the time that you find a coin, it's pretty damn long. We my mother's got a small office building, and this lady that kind of runs it for her, she went into the unit and it was as hot as a sauna in this lady's little 300 square foot office. So
Here's a Bitcoin miner.
so at any rate, so she took a picture of this strange looking contraption, and as soon as I saw it, I knew exactly what it was. This massage person was mining Bitcoins because electricity was included with their lease. So they had free electricity, so they put a mining rig in a 300 square foot office, and it was about 85 degrees inside that office from that one rig.
That's insane. That's insane. That's really insane. Anyway,
I used to
so-
I used to do deals for electricity and cooling included, and then I would pay for the rack space, and in large data centers. So I go in there with 50 to 100 Bitcoin miners, just sitting there, and I was pulling unbelievable amounts of electricity, and stay there until I was kicked out, and then move on to the next one. Change
Hey,
the
we're getting
company
close.
name and move
We're
on
getting
to
close to
next
the
one.
end here. We're getting close to the end. And there's two stories that I definitely want to cover that we didn't cover today,
All right.
and that is Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore. Greg, I'm going to let you talk about that.
Well, they're home, and it was an absolute beautiful day in Florida. I will tell you that there was no savior thing going on. This was decided to bring those two back on the Crew 10 mission way back in August, after they determined that the Boeing Starliner was not viable. So they were always gonna come back on the SpaceX. It was the most cost effective and the safest method for them to go ahead and do that. They could have rushed a mission, but they looked at the numbers, and it would have been $120 million over NASA budget. They
Well,
were
listen,
fine.
this is what I wanted to say about that. Number one, they're astronauts that went up for an 8-day, it's like,
Right.
this is the tale of the castaways.
Gilligan's Island all over again.
Yeah. But
A 3
We're
hour.
going to start calling you the skipper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the issue is, space is hard. Look at the past two starships that blew up.
Yep.
That rapid disassembly was not planned.
Right.
They
Well, they were supposed to be there for
Never planned.
8 days, there for 9 months, and I noticed that they couldn't even walk. They had to put them in. They had to put them in
That's
wheelchairs.
standard operating
that's-
procedure.
Everybody does that.
That's
as
SOP.
well as There
Yeah.
was the Kelly twins. There was a guy. There have been many astronauts that have been up for over 100 days in space. It's your body gets used to weightlessness, and when you're back on ground, just lifting your arm is a huge effort. Your body it takes a long time to get back.
Can you imagine how much overtime those two racked up?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah. And the other thing that
Yeah.
was remarkable, if you noticed, those guys were wearing SpaceX suits, which means they obviously got the fitting information from Boeing, and they
Well,
flew
they
up.
had to.
Yeah, they had to fly up the empty suits for those guys. So
Yep.
that was pretty cool. They had
You know, those suits, I noticed one thing. The boots that they wear look like fisherman boots.
Yeah.
I wonder, I wonder
I
if they
think
just
those
buy them
are
from
integrated
fishermen's.
into the
Yeah.
into the suit, but those suits are like $1 million each.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing
Wow.
that I heard on too, when you're talking about the suits, the chair that they are flying back in is custom sized too.
Right.
Oh, really?
Rest, everything on that, it was customized
Oh,
to
wow.
the body. And what I didn't realize until I was watching it yesterday is that before they push off from the sat, I got to thinking about that. It was 17, almost 18 hours from the time they left till they got there. They're in the seat the entire time, and they have to have their arms strapped down before they leave so that their arms aren't fleeing when they're
Right.
coming in. It's tied into the cross
Yeah.
straps.
Tied into their harnesses. Yeah.
Right.
But
So you
don't they remove those at one point, or they have to have their arms strapped in for the whole entire trip?
My understanding was it was the whole entire trip. I could be
Oh
wrong.
my God.
That was my whole.
Well-
You're setting this for 18 hours.
Don't
they
think so
tethered-
because they have to touch some buttons, but then I
Yeah.
think they self.
Yeah. It's
Patch.
Velcro. It's Velcro. It's not like, yeah. They just keep you from flailing. So
You need to hit the button. I can't hit the button.
But still, 17 hours. 17 hours. Poo break. I mean,
Well, there's no room
Integrated.
in there. If you looked at it, there was actually no room in there. They had to remove the footrest in order to get the first guy out. They had to remove all 4 footrests.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
guy
I
had to
know.
crawl in there.
Oh no, those suits are
Diapers.
designed for pooing and peeing. That's
That's the
why
reason
it's
the rubber-
that's why they're
that's
$1
the
million
reason the rubber-
suits.
That's the reason the rubber boots, Jan.
Oh, there you go. That's where they store it. All right, yeah, that's it.
there are,
The smell. Oh my God, the smell. Ugh.
NASA is very, very good at they've been designing diapers for many years.
And
Now
the
I have a question
actual-
for you.
The
Greg.
actual toilet in the space station is like $4 million worth of kit.
Yeah, but basically what that does is that recycles those that poop and pee so that they could reuse it for whatever they're reusing it for.
Cocktails.
Yeah, molding clay. I don't know what it is. It's it's the clay project where they build things. Whatever. I don't know. The other story that I wanted to talk about, and I know we're getting late in the time, and that is, did you hear about the scam that they put together with Amazon and iPhone stealing? There was a crime ring, and bribes helped the crime ring steal thousands of iPhones as from porch pirates, and basically what they did, they set up some sort of organization where people knew that they were getting, the people at AT&T would sell this information to these porch pirates, and then they would organize it into selling and stealing these iPhones that were coming from Amazon. You hear that?
That one.
Well, there you go.
That's pretty awful.
not surprised.
Yep, that's what it was. So anyway, that's it for us today. Is there anybody that would like to say something before we say goodbye to the to the public?
I will just go ahead and put in a commercial for Hotel California. If you like the Eagles, go see them. They were
They're very good. Very, very good.
fun
Excellent.
band. HotelCal.com. So
There you go. Thank you for sharing that. That we really appreciate it.
Cheaper than buying
Anybody
tickets at
else
the
have
Sphere.
anything? Ken?
Cheaper than buying tickets at the Sphere.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, listen, guys. The Eagles are just announced 4 more dates at the Sphere. And actually, the interesting thing is the Sphere is bleeding money. From my understanding, they're just bleeding money. Let me see. I saw an
they're
article about
building mini spheres, though.
Sphere posts quarterly loss. Flat revenue. Sphere Entertainment, the corporate parent of the Las Vegas venue, They posted a second quarter loss of 126 million. So far, they've lost $308 million, so or something like that. So anyway, that
Well,
might
they're building
information might be
one.
wrong.
They're building one in Dubai.
Oh wait, no. Their quarterly revenue was 308 million, and out of that, they lost 126 million.
Oh.
Good business practice. What could I tell you? You know.
But it wasn't the loss from MSG Network, not the Sphere itself.
No,
or
just
was
the
that
Sphere. Just the Sphere.
itself?
Just the Sphere
Just
itself.
the Sphere. Okay. Yeah.
Only the Sphere. Just the Sphere. Only the Sphere. By the way, next week, I think I'm going to try to get a new sponsor for the show. Not that we have a sponsor right now. Prevagen. I think, because our memories, we can't remember shit. So we'll see that. Or the cheap method, Ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba. There you go. And with that in mind, let's say goodbye to everybody who's listening. We'll stay in the room. We'll talk about whatever we want. Thanks, everybody, for a phenomenal show today. Absolutely interesting. I was sitting on the edge of my seat because the back of my seat broke. What can I say? Sitting on the edge. The edge of technology. Here we are. Remember, you make it happen. Have a great week. We'll see you 252 next week on Wednesday. And until then,